Hello, hello, hello. How's everyone doing? Yes, welcome everyone. Welcome to the SydStream. It is Tuesday, March 16th. Um, I'm in a good mood. There's going to be a change of plan for tonight's show. Um, there was an article that I was going to read that was after skimming it, I decided that it's probably best not to do this tonight, if at all. If you are watching this live, or whether you're watching this after the fact later, the most helpful thing you could do for me is hit that like button to give this video a thumbs up. It really helps this channel out. And also, by tomorrow afternoon, there should be timestamps in the description below. Speaking of the description, I will also link to the article that I originally intended on reading, but after skimming it, it struck me as a kind of why I left the left manifesto, which could be interesting. I'm sure there's some valid criticisms in there, but for this channel, for this audience, it seems kind of circle jerky. So it's not really something I'm interested in doing. So I won't. So I'm switching to Plan B. So I got another article which should be interesting. Oh, another thing, the Bari Weiss article that I was initially gonna read, on top of all the things that I mentioned, it's just really long. Going through all this would probably take the whole hour or more. Hey, Darth Shady, how's it going? Thanks for coming. So yeah, I don't mind reading some. Well, first of all, it's unfair to assume, based on me skimming an article and kind of looking into an author really quickly, to assume what this article is about. That's totally unfair, right? But if I'm right, to go through a very long, laborious why I left the left type manifesto, it's kind of boring. So, but yeah, as I mentioned, tonight is probably still going to go long. What I'm going to do actually, if ever, let's say that I do everything that I was planning on doing and it's like 10 to 11, because my goal is for this show my, my goal is to for this show to last roughly an hour. And no, Brad, I will not read it in a silly voice. I might read other articles in a silly voice, who knows. But yeah, if ever, like, by the time I'm done whatever I want to do and it's like 10 to 11, I might not play Stardew Valley and just cut the stream early. We'll see. It will be in your hands. Yeah, let's see now. For those of you who don't stream on YouTube, I gotta say there's an issue with streaming on YouTube, which is, like, every fucking stream, there's gonna be a pop-up that says YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain a smooth streaming or whatever. It's a false alarm every time, from what I gather. Well, again, after I'm finished, if I'm hesitating, I'll ask the audience. So if you want to see Penny and the Farm, I have not played since last time. Then you can just tell me then. Speaking of which, actually, I was really disappointed this weekend. I discovered a potential other game that I could play, because Stardew Valley, it's a fun game. I enjoy it, but it's fun to, like, have options. I like options, and there's a game that Destiny has been playing a lot, called Loop Hero. and it's another like 16-bit retro style game. I downloaded it, and it's a fun game too. But unfortunately, during my tests, like streaming the game, my computer can handle that like a breeze as far as my gameplay is concerned. But holy shit, it is absolutely unwatchable for y'all. It's like one frame every couple seconds. It's really bad, sadly. So hey, my quest for another game I can play on stream will will have to continue. Who knows how long that'll go? All right, let's prepare the first segment. Man, this this isn't really a huge story. It's just something that that I noticed today that was really interesting. And I don't know why the Twitter algorithm decided to put this in my feed, but I'm glad it did. Let me show you what I mean. Let me make this bigger for you. No, actually, instead of zooming in, I'll just click on this. Marvel's newest Captain America is an LGBTQ plus activist. The the comments are kind of the comments, like, here's the thing. When I said earlier that this isn't really that big of a story, like this tweet right here, 1,014 likes and 200 retweets or whatever, like this is this is one of the tweets that I found on this story that had the most engagement, like by far. The others had like, a couple hundred likes and a couple hundred comments and shit like that. Let me just see something here. Yeah, you see, this particular tweet didn't even get ratioed. It's roughly 2 to 1 likes to comments. So I just found it interesting that this and this looks like a totally legit looking picture. The first comments that I went into seemed pretty outraged by this, but my friends, I immediately smelled a rat, because we've seen this before. A lot of faux outrage about, well, I can't say bigger. The notion that Captain America isn't a large superhero is ridiculous. He was one of the first ones, or like he's been around, But as soon as I noticed this story, I smelled a rat, so I called it. And it's not even that difficult to call, but without even reading this other article that I found on it. And lo and behold, later in the article, they mentioned that it is a limited comic series. So this might not even be canon. It might be, it might not be. But I gotta say, where's the other tweet? Is it still here? The Based on the actual news story here, the notion that this kid is a Captain America is pretty funny. A Captain America with the red communist star tattooed on his neck. That you know, I'm probably gonna read it. I'm really curious to see how they justify this. But yeah, the notion is, like, even here it's the United States of Captain America. So the premise is that there are. Captain America gets his shield stolen, and he and a bunch of other heroes who have borne the Captain America mantle go on a road trip, and this guy's one of the one of the Captain Americas that, like, he's kind of a vigilante in his own alleyway, that kind of thing. So we'll see what that gives. But the other thing, again, that made me suspect that this was not what it seems. Let me just do a couple Google searches right now. This, because we've seen this before, and I'm just gathering my evidence. This is not in chronological order, but actually, I'll start with the one that I first heard of, which, strangely, in a weird way, got me back into comics. It's complicated. My history with comics is complicated. I don't want to bore you with that. I kind of glossed over it last week. Actually, Brad, very astute that you mentioned this. The the story that got me back into comics was Sam Wilson being Captain America. So, from my perspective, and I'll answer your question. I was going to answer your question anyway in this rant. From my perspective, when I heard that Captain America was going to be black, that's how, like, people who don't read comics presented this. I was like, holy shit, this is going to be a big deal. And it turns out that I really loved what they did with this. It is Steve Rogers again. Steve Rogers isn't going away, and Sam Wilson's run as Captain America is one example of these kinds of false alarms. Another false alarm was when people, again, presumably right wingers who certainly don't read comics, were like, "Oh my God, they're gonna replace Iron Man with a black woman." But no, the Riri Williams is probably still in the Marvel universe, but so is Tony Stark. She didn't replace anyone, although, and this is a common narrative that happens with these people. Whenever one of these moves happen, it's because the main person carrying this mantle is out of the picture temporarily. Like when Sam Wilson was Captain America, for Steve Rogers got the super soldier serum removed from his system and aged back into his natural age. So he had to give the mantle to someone. And honestly, Sam Wilson is the perfect choice. Again, for some of you, this might be obvious, but Steve Rogers and Sam Wilson are like this. They've been really close for a while, and as a matter of fact, in Civil War, the comic series, when Captain America realized that he didn't want to enforce the Superhero Registration Act, and he crashed out of the Shield headquarters window and realized that he was a fugitive. The first thing he did, he went directly to Sam Wilson. So yeah, that this is just one of many potential examples. Speaking of other examples, Amadeus Cho, who bore the mantle of the Hulk for a while. I don't know enough about Hulk's history. From what I've gathered, and I can't find a good picture in this. From what I've gathered, like, Bruce Banner had some kind of radiation disease or something, which is kind of weird considering he's the Hulk and gamma radiation is what makes him go. But to summarize this really poorly, this brilliant Korean kid, Amadeus Cho, helped save Bruce Banner's life and ended up being the Hulk for a while. But right now, the Hulk is, Bruce Banner, the Hulk that we all know and love. And yeah, so even if this wasn't a limited 5-part series, it's pretty easy to tell that, you know, the big name heroes aren't going anywhere. So even though there was very little outrage, had there been, you can know that it's from people who don't read comics or are trying to use that to to advance an agenda. So yeah, that'll be it for this segment. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. I do these streams every day, every Tuesday night at 10 p.m. Eastern. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you soon. There we go. Um, yeah, I like their friendship story for Captain America. Honestly, Darth Shady, I don't remember enough about uh, I don't remember enough about how the relationship between Sam Wilson and Steve Rogers is portrayed in the movies, because I have, those two characters I happen to know enough about that it kind of went over my head. I was watching that through the lens of, oh, how are they going to adapt this to the video? And part of me was disappointed that Sam Wilson in the movies is just some guy. And although, the superpower that real Sam Wilson actually does have is kind of useless, but still, they say on your left a lot. Yeah, maybe. I don't know, but I gotta say, and Brad and I were having this conversation on Twitter earlier today. I think that the movie adaptation for Civil War was an empty shell of what the comic book series was. Like, it's all about the premise, you know? The Civil War in the comic book series, it's like it's a question that's really close to my heart, which is probably why it resonated with me so much. But it's the notion of, what do people do when bad laws are passed? And there's the side of, fuck this shit, I'm not obeying this law. And there's the cuck side of the, well, it's not perfect, but it's the best system we got, and if you don't like the system, you gotta vote someone into power to change the law. So yeah, it was very interesting for me to see the soldier stand up on principle, and the billionaire entrepreneur basically side with the state. So yeah, the premise was good, but it was ruined by making pro registration clear villains in the comic. Oh yeah, I see what you mean, Brad. Yeah, that is a point. Like, the fact that they had actual villains working with them is kind of a clue. But even then, the heroes who were pro registration, setting up some secret prison in a pocket dimension where time runs slower, whatever. That's some fucked up shit. In the movie, at least, it turns into a team up against the real villain, which is how superhero fights should end. Uh, I thank you for sharing. I just, at least your opinion is clearer to me now. Because the notion is, um, you know, it all depends on what elements of a story are important to you. And for me, it's a good premise told well, which sometimes, like, a good premise told well can sometimes have a shitty ass ending, and sometimes the shitty ending is so bad that it sinks the whole story, and sometimes it's not. The story is told so well that even this shitty ass, pathetic garbage ending is kind of an asterisk on the story, and not, it doesn't sing the whole thing. That's the way I see it. That's a silly voice. Yeah, exactly. Geez. Oh, and for in case some of you were surprised by me, like, suddenly ending the segment, something that I've been experimenting with recently is because the format of this stream is that I record segments and then upload them as their own segments if I'm happy with them later. But I've been experimenting with starting the recording much earlier. Like my first couple weeks, I was like, okay, let me just prepare. Okay, now I'm recording. Okay, and now I start. Whereas I really prefer just hitting the record button. Maybe y'all don't even notice that I did, and then as I'm riffing, I just go right into the segment, and then it just feels good to me. So yeah. And as a reminder, the original article that I was going to read on self-censoring liberals, it just strikes me as boring. It's boring and it's really long. And this article might might cause the show to go long also, which is why I'm not sure whether or not I'm going to play Stardew Valley or not at the end, but we'll see. All right. Let me take a last swig of water. You see, the kind of shit that I'm doing now is the kind of thing that I don't like doing just before a segment, you know? Sorry if me drinking just now sounded gross. I forgot to mute myself. I don't know how sensitive this mic is. Hey, while I'm on the subject, just a quick intermission. As I covered earlier, my goals to like invest in this stream. I can't say reinvest because that would suppose that I'm making income from this, which I'm not. But I have some goals for like upgrading this production. The one thing that I absolutely need, period, is an external hard drive. And I'm a couple weeks away from being able to do that. And then after that, I'm going to start saving up for a decent mic, which should really help. And then maybe eventually a decent webcam. We'll see about that. So, I'm sure y'all know someone who's extremely partisan, and sometimes interacting with these people makes you wonder if they're just stupid. Well, according to this article that fell into my radar, they might be. Let's take a look. Party loyalties hinder the brain's ability to get a handle on reality. This is okay, having skimmed this before, there's a lot of citations here, more than I could cover. The link to this will be below. But just as I like to do, this is from libertarianism.org by David S. D'Amato, whom I couldn't really find much about based on his Twitter profile, which is it's surprisingly telling on people. But let's give this a read. How does this look on screen? Let's make it one or two notches or three notches bigger. Yeah, this will do nicely for you. All right. Recent research using fMRI techniques is allowing us to peer into the connections yet shrouded in mystery between local brain activity, cognitive processes, and partisan attachment. This developing body of knowledge has revealed the profound importance of evolution in shaping the ways in which our brains process all kinds of information, in particular political information. At the center of this evolutionary journey is the importance of groups, of being initiated and accepted into them. Oh, yeah. Of aligning ourselves with them, of being loyal to them regardless of philosophical considerations. And this here is key to me. Jesus, the ability to attack your own side or criticize your own side sometimes harshly is a godsend. That's extremely virtuous. So, yeah, not people that you never see do that. To me, it's kind of sus. It's kind of sus. The social dynamics of group membership and participation are programmed more deeply into our brains than it is abstract philosophizing. In other words, people will go along with the group, even if the ideas oppose their own ideologies. Belonging may have more value than facts. And I'm not going to go over these studies. Is this an actual publication? This might just be an article from Discover Magazine. So yeah, again, there are a lot of these. I'm not going to go over them. I'm going to stick to the main article, but I'm just middle clicking on all of them just to give you an idea of how many there are in this. Continuing, because once we are moved from place to place as nomads, such groups are our homes even more than any physical locations are. We now have decades of research suggesting, if not proving, the ubiquity of emotion biased motivation and motivated reasoning. Jesus Christ, academics are so wordy. This is why people like I'm sure Neil deGrasse Tyson is not the smartest astronomer, but holy shit, if you're if you're if you're so bad, like the ability to vulgarize and get your specialty out to the masses is really valuable. I just wanted to to underline that. A fucking 3-line title for a paper. All right. Let me start over this sentence. I kind of got triggered there. We now have decades of research suggesting, if not proving, the ubiquity of emotion bias motivated reasoning. Reasoning that is qualitatively different uh, from the kind operating when the kind operating when subjects are engaged in cold reasoning, where the subject lacks a strong emotional stake in the subjects at issue. Okay, yeah. A colloquialism that I often hear is when emotions are high, intelligence is low. So yeah, coupled with a growing literature on the startling character and extent of political ignorance, the current state has dire implications for human freedom. Okay, this is like this kind of thing is probably why this article is on libertarianism.org, and we see another study or a podcast or whatever. The stakes are high. In their 2018 study of why and how partisanship impairs the brain's ability to process information objectively, NYU researchers Jay Van Bavel and Andrea Pereira note that partisanship can alter memory, implicit evaluation, and even perceptual judgments. Memory is malleable in general. Like, I hate to break it to you folks, but it's surprisingly easy to misremember things or to remember things that never even happened. I'm sure if you have a big enough family, you've probably had family reunions where stories that you were present for are just mistold by people who are absolutely certain that that's how it happened. That's why eyewitness testimony isn't enough on its own. In general, I'm speaking in layman's terms. Wait, let me just find where I was. Yeah, okay, cool. One recent study published last fall by a team from Berkeley, Stanford, and Johns Hopkins set out to better understand how partisan biases develop the brain. The researchers had subjects watch a series of videos using fMRI to explore the neural mechanisms that underlie the bias processing of real world political content. The results showed that partisan team members process identical information in highly biased and motivated ways. Hell yeah! The opposite would be surprising, honestly. The researchers locate this neural polarization in the part of the brain known as the dorsomedial prefrontal cortex, a region associated with understanding and formulating narratives. Oh my God, that is so true for the family thing. Yeah. Oh, trust me, I've seen it firsthand. It must happen all the time. Like neither one of our families is that special. It's the brain. The study also found, perhaps unsurprisingly, that to the extent a given participant's brain activity during the video aligned with that of the average liberal or average conservative, the participant was more likely to take up that group's position. Yeah, of course. Like another thing that's disappointingly often true is how the amount of times that you rationally reach your conclusion or whatever is much lower than you would like to believe it is. I say you, but I include myself with this. Like so often when there's any emotional juice in there, people will like make up their minds like in that split second and then retroactively rationalize why they made that decision after the fact. And it's virtually impossible to notice. I have no siblings. I've rarely lived that, not in the family context anyway. That's fine. Um, uh, Family relations doesn't necessarily include siblings, but I get it. Or maybe your family is just really smart. Your family's the exception. How's that? There we go. Every Tuesday night at 10 p.m. Eastern, come to be blatantly flattered by Sid. All right, let's continue. The study accords with years of previous research showing that partisans' opinions on important social, political, and economic issues are affected by subconscious brain processes. Processes of which they're neither aware nor in control. This ought to be deeply concerning to anyone, to everyone who belongs to a political team. Processes are taking place in your brain, underneath or beyond the level of direct awareness, that are informing your conclusions about important and political issues. Did I call it or did I call it? You know, by did I call it, I mean, did I remember this notion that I'd heard about before? Geez, too bad. To reflect on this for even a moment should fill anyone who aspires to critical thinking or rationality with a kind of dread, for loyalty to the team seems to be overriding the higher faculties of the mind. But the authors are careful to note it's more important not to interpret these results as pointing to some kind of determinism, whereby we can't choose how to think or what we believe. Okay, yeah, I don't believe in determinism either. I think it's dumb. But then again, determinists probably think I'm dumb. So, hey, live and let live, buddy. As one of the study's authors, Stanford psychologist Jamil Zaki says, critically, these differences do not imply that people are hardwired to disagree. Wait, huh? These differences do not imply that people are hardwired to disagree. Uh, I don't know why this pretty simple sentence is difficult for me to process, but hopefully y'all get it. I'm just gonna move on. Rather, these neural pathways seem to be carved largely by the kinds of sources of the media we consume. This is why I am constantly talking about a diverse diet of media intake. You can't just be listening to your side. From the data yielded by such research, among many other similar studies, a picture begins to emerge of partisanship as a kind of mind poisoning, an infection that leads to serious and importantly measurable cognitive impairment. Evidence suggests that under the influence of partisanship, nice, I might start memeing that. Are you under the influence of partisanship? Under that influence, we can't even understand our own thoughts and opinions. Jesus. In another important recent experiment, researchers wanted to understand the relative accuracy of participants' introspective constructs. The researchers set out to gauge people's ability to understand their own choices, to see clearly the elements of internal argumentation that led to their choices. This is why nationalism is so important to governments. Yeah, totally. Holy shit. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head with that one, Francois. In particular, the researchers wanted to know how subjects would deal with choices that had been manipulated. That is, whether subjects would notice mismatches between their intended choice and the outcome they are presented with. Would subjects recognize that something was off? If they failed to notice the manipulation, would they offer justifications for choices they had not yet even made? Hey, I'm going to put on my big brain hat here and say yes. Good joke, that's shady. All right. The assumption is that subjects who fail to notice the mismatches must not only really understand the reasons for their choices or the internal processes leading to a moral or political judgment. Wait, huh? Okay, the assumption is subjects who fail to notice must not really understand the reasons. Yep, exactly. Yeah. So let's continue. The results revealed a conspicuous introspective blindness to the internal processings leading to a moral or political judgment. People didn't seem to understand why they had made the decisions they'd made or had not made, through though some exhibited what researchers called unconscious detection of self-deception. Now, this I'm really curious about. I'm tired of all these tabs. I'm going to close them. I've already proven my point that there's a shit ton of citations, and if you're suspicious, the link will be below. You can check it for yourself. Massive experiment on choice, blindness, and political decisions. I'm really curious. Wait, let me just skim the abstract for this. Choice blindness. Confidence level in the were significantly lower than non-manipulated cases, and even we named this phenomenon. Man, you know what? Since I'm on this on this tangent, I'm going to read the abstract. We implemented a choice blindness paradigm containing political statements in Argentina to reveal the existence of categorical ranges of introspective reports, identified by confidence and agreement levels, separating easy from very hard to manipulate decisions. CBP, okay, this is CBP. CBP was, let me make this bigger for y'all. There we go. CBP was implemented in both live and web-based forms. Importantly, and contrary to what was observed in Sweden, we did not observe changes in voting intentions. Also, confidence levels in the manipulated replies were significantly lower than in non manipulated cases, even in undetected manipulations. We named this phenomenon unconscious detection for self deception. Results also show that females are more difficult to manipulate than men. Hey, there you go. Girl power, baby. I might actually go over this. This study strikes me as one that I'm actually going to read, but we'll see. Where was it? The existence of neural. Yeah, okay. So I had already read this. Once one has chosen and joined a team, she has very little control over her own thoughts. When they are introduced, new data is distorted. New data are distorted. Ooh, data is our. Yeah. Let me start over. When they're introduced, new data are distorted, misinterpreted, or discarded based on their consistency with what we may describe as a program running in the background. Partisanship leads the team member into a cognitive position of unconscious self deception. Few of us, if fully understanding this phenomenon, would choose it for themselves. Yeah, of course. Jesus Christ, who would choose this knowingly? At least that's the hope for who. That's the hope of many who study this area. To me, it's obvious. Like there's no, there's no way people would knowingly choose to think this way. As the authors observe, reflecting on our beliefs may help to develop free societies. They suggest that if citizens better understand the brain mechanics of the cognitive impairment and self deception brought on by partisanship, they'd be positioned to make better decisions. Research has shown that, period. Research has shown that reflecting on how we make decisions lead to better decisions. Yeah, Metacognition. Women Women are less manipulated than men. It could explain why many of the current protests are organized by women and have a lot of women attendance. You know what? That's a really fair point. That's a really fair point. Thanks for pointing that out, Francois. Frank. Geez, pretending that I don't know people that I know. I'm really glad you're all here, by the way. All right. Where was I? Similar research on self deception in politics has also confirmed the presence of the Dunning Kruger effect. To summarize, people think they know a lot more than they actually do. Further, I'm assuming you've heard of the Dunning Kruger effect. Whew, yeah. Further, the effect is exaggerated within the context of politics, with no low knowledge participants describing themselves as even more knowledgeable than usual once partisanship is made a conspicuous factor. Let me reread that. Low knowledge participants describing themselves as even more knowledgeable than usual once participantship is made a conspicuous factor. Okay. So basically, once the team lines are drawn, it kind of beefs your bravado. Victor Geraldi Haas and Isabella Starling Alves posit that the kind of self deception that is such a major characteristic of political partisanship probably evolved as an evolutionary adaptive strategy to deal with the intragroup extragroup dynamics of human evolution. Absolutely. Objective truth, meaning roughly an accurate model of reality, is not important, not at least not anywhere near as important as conformity and indeed submission, which we may associate with social reality. Absolutely. You know, I don't think this is news to anyone. Like complying to your social norms is fucking important, and it's also part of the reason why the notion of basing your opinions, political opinions, on objective reality, when when it's like spherical perfect spheres colliding with each other in a vacuum, then yes, you can fucking nail that to a T and predict and reproduce. But when it comes to like human psychology in mass, man, different perspectives are sometimes so irreconcilable that no wonder some people think there's no such thing as objective reality within the social context. Whatever its flaws, evolutionary psychology offers us several promising leads on the question of just why the brain isn't able to perform on partisanship. Yes, don't be under the influence of partisanship, people. This notion of social reality is an important clue. At this juncture, it's important to underline the fact that when we speak of partisanship, we are not speaking of ideology. The relationship between partisan identification and political ideology is complicated. The connection between the two, not particularly strong. Okay. Um, the thing that's making me hesitate right here is I'd be really curious to see definitions for political ideology and partisan identification. Like in the abstract, it's kind of clear. Like just because just because I'm a libertarian doesn't necessarily mean that like it's at the core of my self identity, and thus can be true for any other political ideology. I'd just be curious to know the definitions. Maybe they're coming later. Ideologues tend to think systematically, and the philosophical contents of their beliefs are deeply important to them. What is important to the partisan, oh, these definitions are right here. Okay. So ideologues think systematically, and the contents are deeply important to them. What is important to the partisan is not what she believes, but that she aligns her beliefs with those of her team or in group, or else or else, as may be the case, that she is loyal to and supportive of the party. Jesus Christ! So many fucking this sentence fucking drives me nuts. All right, let's break it up. Um, so what's important to the partisan is not what she believes, but that she aligns her beliefs with those of her team or in group, or else, as may be the case, that she is loyal to and supportive of the party group despite any real or perceived ideological non concurrences. Whew, that was a mouthful. Try reading that 10 times fast. I could barely read it once slowly. Oh boy. Americans tend to vastly overestimate the differences in political ideology and policy preferences between Democrats and Republicans. In fact, yeah, actually. Ooh, this reminds me of a meme. Oh man, can I? Okay, so yeah, I'm going for it. Americans tend to vastly overestimate the differences in political ideology and policy. Yeah, let me try to find this real quick. Ooh, I think I retweeted this. I'm pretty sure I did. I'm not going to spend too much time, but it just reminds me so perfectly of this meme. It's one of these really good political compass memes. Yes. Okay. Uh, Republicans and Democrats are basically the same, and you see these two. What? No, we're completely opposite. And then it zooms out, and they're both like in this teeny tiny little part of the quadrant, and everyone else is saying, Republicans and Democrats are basically the same. Something that the tankies, the Nazis, the fedora wearing ANCAPs, and the Antifa, gender fluid Antifas can all agree on. So, yeah, that was perfect. This essay is so complex for the non cognitive. And yes, that meme is impressive. This essay is complex for the cognitive. Like, I things worded in such, you know, $10 words, it's annoying to me. I'm sure there were ways to make this simpler, but it's interesting. So yeah, most Americans are not at all ideological, can't describe ideologies accurately as their proponents would describe them, and have almost no information on either the history of ideas or the empirical evidence that bears on particular political or policy questions. Interestingly, partisanship doesn't necessarily seem to be about politics in the normative or philosophical sense, as people place party loyalty over policy and even over truth. There are actually relatively weak correlations between partisan identity and concrete policy preferences. Very wordy essay. Yeah, absolutely, Brad. People place party. People place party pack of pickled peppers. It's crazy. All right, we're almost done though. This is the final stretch. Let's see how many pack of pickled peppers the people place party portal D will pick. Partisan affect is inconsistently and perhaps artifactually. I want to flip this table right now. God damn it. Okay. I need to find my happy place. We will finish this. We've come this far, people. This is the fallacy of sunk costs coming into effect right now. We've packed this many packs of pickled peppers. We're gonna pickle pecker pap some more and sell seashells by the seashore until rubber baby buggies bump. All right, let's do this. Um, Jesus. Okay, partisan affect is inconsistently, and perhaps artifactually founded in policy attitudes. Indeed, strong partisanship is necessarily an impediment to ideological thinking insofar as ideology is predicated on an integrated and consistent approach to policy questions, as against the blind team rooting approach. Okay, wait. Let me. We've bitched enough about how wordy this essay is. I think it's hack at this point. So, strong partisanship is necessarily an impediment to ideological thinking insofar as ideology is predicated on an integrated and consistent approach to policy questions, as against the blind team rooting approach associated with in the literature with partisanship. This guy must be a blast at parties. Ideological people, whatever their flaws, hold political actors and government bodies to account. Partisans, partisans change positions readily and shamelessly. Absolutely, holy shit! Just look at the meme of the anti-war left that disappeared for 8 years under Obama. It's crazy. Uh, Yeah, partisans change, yeah, depending on anything from who is living in the White House to the vagaries of party leaders, to what is perceived as popular at the moment. Further, individual Americans' political opinions are remarkably unstable over time, vacillating between glaring contradictions, relying on a confused amalgam of elite opinions. Partisanship, as we know it, rather seems to be a holdover from humankind's history of tribal loyalty, with selective pressures having sculpted humans' minds to be tribal. That is, evolution selected for just the kinds of cognitive biases we find in partisans on both sides today. Importantly, neither team is immune. Absolutely. Only partisan parties where people. Oh, shit. I've read enough tongue twisters. Let's go with this. All right. Only party only partisan parties where people preferentially place their packages periodically. Oh geez, at least that's funny. Nice meme. Okay, two more paragraphs. Two more paragraphs and we're done. All right. A recent paper published by the American Psychological Association suggests that, from a cognitive and psychoneurological standpoint, partisans of the left and right are much more like each other than they are like nonpartisans. Ooh, yeah, yes. As study co author Lear Zmigrod writes, regardless of the direction and content of the political beliefs, extreme partisans had a similar cognitive profile. Specifically, partisans of all stripes show lower levels of cognitive flexibility. Importantly, even when processing information that has no political character, they are more dogmatic, less adaptable, and less able to complete tasks that require an ability to adapt to novel or changing environments and a capacity to switch between modes of thinking. This study I might actually have heard of. Okay, no, this is a year old. There was another study which I thought this article was related to about how you know partisans have lower mental flexibility or something like that. I didn't read it, but yeah. Partisanship quite literally makes one dumb. Or is it the dumb people that just more likely that are more likely to be committed to partisans? Zmigrod is careful to point out that the study can't give us the answer to that question, that we would need longitudinal studies in order to better understand the causal direction and causal phenomena at play. As soon as partisanship is introduced, as soon as a question mentions a politician or political parties, subjects are unable to accurately assess basic facts. Indeed, remarkably, tinging a question with a political shade renders many subjects unable to answer a simple question, even when they are given the answer. Jesus, really? Relatedly, studies have shown that one's political affiliations even affect her ability to perform basic math. Given an operation that yields a statistic contradicting a subject's partisan view, the subject will tend to question the result rather than updating based on the evidence or attempting to reconcile the new information with her politics. This phenomena right here was really displayed. I'm reminded of a yes. I know I talk about him a lot, but I'm gonna give you a fair warning. Hey, it's not working. Eh, it would have been a nice joke, but we'll see it for next time. Uh, I I saw some people debate Nazis, and whenever the statistics proving systemic racism was brought up. Now, of course, this example involves Nazis who aren't the sharpest knives in the drawer. But yeah, whenever stats and studies were presented to them, they would just question the source. I'm sure you've encountered this on a more low key level before. In a groundbreaking study published last summer, a team of researchers led by University of Exeter's Darren Schreiber attempted to address the lack of brain imaging research specifically aimed at better understanding nonpartisans, a group that has been neglected as almost all such research has focused on the differences between the brains of partisans of the left and right. The study found that nonpartisan brains are different from those of their brainwashed brethren. Okay, cool. Particularly in regions that are typically involved in social cognition. Oh man, okay. Um, I'm just going to assume what the definition of social cognition is, but I think assuming I understand all these words correctly, and God knows we've encountered a lot of $10 words so far, but I'm just going to go on assumption here. Um, regions, social cognition. I'm pretty sure what they're driving at is the notion of how like extremists can't tell how cringe they are or how creepy they are, depending on their particular form of lack of social cognition. They're basically Dilberts. It may be that the next stage in human evolution will involve rewiring our brains to accept the fact that current groups are artificially and arbitrarily defined, that all human beings are one people. For just as there is harmful, toxic tribalism, there is socially beneficial, cooperative cosmopolitanism. As social policy expert Elizabeth Siegel writes, ultimately, our goal should be to build the tribe we belong to, that of humanity. Yeah. Libertarians take this lesson quite seriously, for we tend to see ourselves as part of a common global community of connected individuals who are perfectly capable of dealing with one another through peaceful and mutually beneficial interactions. Now, this sentence rings true to me because I am a libertarian. However, it is entirely possible. I just want to point this out. It is entirely possible that this sentence right here is just empty patting yourself on the backism. Just pointing it out. Maybe, maybe not. I don't think so, but that might be my confirmation bias speaking. We celebrate social, cultural, religious, and linguistic differences as the spice of life rather than see them as dividing lines or impediments to willing collaboration. If we can understand and think clearly through partisanship, we can begin to build a freer world based on based not on arbitrary divisions and compromised reasoning, but on mutual respect and renewed emphasis on rigorous critical thinking. Well, that article was a mouthful. I thought it was interesting. Honestly, there's as I said earlier, there's a lot of sources here. So I'm definitely gonna keep this to dig into some of these. Mainly the one on a massive experiment on choice blindness in political decisions. That sounds absolutely fascinating to me. And it's the study's only 4 years old, so yeah, expect me to read it and maybe summarize it and maybe be the Neil deGrasse Tyson of this study to maybe present it to you without picking a pack of pickled peppers and selling seashells by the seashore. So yeah, if you're still watching, thank you so much. Jesus Christ, you're an OG. Hit that like button to show your partisan loyalty or your ideological even-mindedness. We'll see. But yeah, I do these streams every Tuesday night at 10 p.m. Eastern. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. Leave your comments below. I'm extremely curious to know what y'all think. We all know what the chat here thinks. So yeah, I'll see you soon. I really want to upload that one, but I'm gonna have to edit it. Holy shit, that article was such a chore to go through. Like the reading of it. Wow. Like, woof. We made it to the end, people, and it's 11:03. I am not playing Stardew Valley. I love y'all, but that article drained me mentally. To just absolutely just the process of reading it. I love you too, Brad. Thank you for still being here. Jesus. Yeah. Wow. Again, it's gonna be a challenge editing this, but I really want to. Uh, I wanna I wanna edit and upload that. I'm really disappointed that the button that I tried to press on this console, which I have programmed and it's working to perfection, except for this one thing that I wanted to do, which would have killed. And yes, Penny will be lonely as she rests. Penny is asleep right here. You can't see me rubbing this part of my laptop, but that's where Penny is right now. Uh, no, actually, Frank, you didn't. Without your contributions, I probably would have, you know, bailed on the article and come back to it later. Like, holy shit! Wait, let me just go back to something here. Like, I'm just curious to see if he's this wordy all the time. He seems able to write normally. I don't know why he I don't know why that article was so hard to read. Jesus. But hey, it's my first exposure to David S. Diamato's writing, and yeah. Anyway, that was fun. Let me just prepare for the part of the show that you all knew was coming. The end. Thank you very much for watching. Again, hit that like button if you haven't already. It really does help this channel, which is why I pimp that out so much. And it's such a smaller commitment than subscribing. Like, honestly, subscriptions don't matter that much to YouTube, which is why I don't talk about them much. But thumbs up do matter. So yeah, thank you so much for still watching. And for bearing with me while I read that article, which was ultimately fascinating. And yeah, I'll see you soon.